We're with Amy Goyer, a caregiving expert for AARP. Amy, everybody's heard about the term the sandwich generation. You've expanded that into the club sandwich generation. Explain that for me.
We often think of the sandwich generation just as people who are caregiving for older parents as well as children who are either in the home or boomerang kids who've come back into the home. I think that all caregivers are sandwiched. So they may be sandwiched between caregiving for older parents and kids, but it may be grandparents, grandchildren, siblings they're caring for, friends and neighbors, spouses, partners, as well as being sandwiched between work and family and other relationships and taking care of their homes and all of the other aspects of our lives.
Okay, now your personal story influences a lot of your work and your writing. Can you tell me just a little bit about your father and how does he impact what you're doing now and the writing that you do now?
My dad was a professor. He was a communication professor, and he took care of my mom, his parents, and my mom after she had a stroke at the age of 63, and then he developed Alzheimer's disease. So my mom passed away a couple years ago now, but Dad is still with me. I have chosen to take care of him at home, so he lives with me in Arizona. And I basically have adapted my work life as well as my personal life, my other relationship with my significant other, my boyfriend. All of these things are driven to help Daddy through this process and to accompany him through the progression of the Alzheimer's disease.
Okay. Now, you noted that many times caregivers feel victimized. What do you mean by that?
Sometimes we ask the question even, did you have a choice in taking on this caregiving role? And I don't even like that question because I think everything we do is a choice. So I want caregivers to actually be empowered by that. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims, I know when I start to feel that way, it's weakening. It makes the whole situation and the whole process much more difficult for me. I think if we look at it as, I'm choosing to be here and do this, and the reason is because it's the right thing to do or because I love the person I'm taking care of. There can be many reasons, but we do choose to be there. There are lots of people out there who have families and friends who are not choosing to be there for them. So I think it's more empowering if we don't see ourselves as victims.
Okay, now what do the numbers show about how many adults are caring for their parents or perhaps their siblings?
We know that 40 million family caregivers in the United States, and they can be caring for their spouses, their siblings, their parents, adult children as well.
What are the tasks that these caregivers need to complete? What sort of medical tasks or other activities of daily living tasks?
Family caregivers are taking care of everyday things like dressing and feeding and toileting, helping people with the day-to-day living things, as well as the other things like transportation, managing finances, getting people to and from doctor's appointments or making those appointments, helping people with their quality of life, making sure they still have socialization and have joy and things in their lives. We also know that more than half of family caregivers are doing medical and nursing tasks. So we're talking about everything from feeding tubes to wound care to managing multiple medications and other medical equipment. It can be a really wide range of activities, and some of us have very intense burdens in terms of tasks of caregiving.
Okay, and finally, you mentioned the 5 learnings or takeaways in your caregiving role. What are those?
First of all, I think it's really important that we look at building a team. I can do anything at this point, but I can't do everything. So we have to build a caregiving team and know that it won't just be family. These are people who support us as caregivers. They're people who may come in and volunteer. Our doctors, our nurses, everyone is on that caregiving team. Second of all, we have to look at refilling our own tank. It's not just selfish to take care of ourselves. It's really very practical. We don't expect our cars to run without gas, so we can't expect ourselves to either. We need to know what fills our tank, and one of those things is joy. I think we look at joy as a survival skill. Create joy in the caregiving experience and notice the very simple joys of just tucking my mom in at bed at night and the way she would smile at me. Those things fill our tank, and so it's really important to notice those things. I've also learned that I need to view success as a caregiver as resiliency. I used to feel like every time there was a change, I didn't prevent something from happening, I was failing. And you just can't do that. The waves are going to come and knock us down. There are things we can't control as caregivers. But if I get back up again and I just show up for my loved ones, that's success, just continuously being there.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.